I'm Eric Barnes with the Daily Memphian, and welcome to the Sidebar, a weekly show on the community, arts, culture, and more. Today, we're very pleased to be talking again to musician Steve Selvidge. We'll talk about his solo work. We'll talk about the Hold Steady, a new-ish album. And so stay with us for a conversation with Steve. Steve, thanks for coming back.
Oh, man. Thanks for having me back. Repeat.
Yes. Repeat. One of the few. We were
I feel
talking
special.
about before. Yes. Mem Mods. We'll start there.
Okay.
The new-ish album came out in the spring.
February, something like that. Yeah. Long time in the making. It was a pandemic project between myself, Luther Dickinson, North Mississippi All-Stars, and Paul Taylor, New Memphis Colorways. And, you know, like so many people, we found ourselves without any work at all.
Deep COVID.
Deep COVID. Yeah. We're talking like, you know, I think May of 2020.
Ugh. You just say May of 2020 and like my soul just kind of crushes a little.
I can't look at a HelloFresh box with like just like the most creeping malaise, you know. It's like, oh, I mean, serious trauma triggers, you know.
Yeah.
But anyways, Luther was like, hey man, I sent a bass line, you know, he recorded himself playing bass and sent it to Paul because we all have recording setups at home. Paul put some drums to it, and he's like, Paul, put drums to this, play some guitar on it. So I did, and then I was like, hey guys, I did a little mix of it and sent it to him, and it was like, wow, this is fun, and it came out really well. And so we just started kind of flipping files back and forth, and then it was like, oh, we're making a record. Like, I mean, it like all of a sudden we had like 12 songs, and it was also great because it gave us something to do. We didn't have, we didn't have any work, at all. And so I could go back in my studio and like, it's like, okay, done stuff with the kids in the morning. I'm going to go out and I'm going to go to work, and there was always something new for me to play on. And then after a while, it was like, both those guys were like, well, why don't you just mix the record? Because I'd been sending kind of quote unquote rough mixes, and they were like, these sound fine. So then I got really in depth in the mixing of it. So even when we had done kind of been finished recording everything, writing and recording, I still had, I could go out and mix this record. And so it just became a project.
And this is a dumb question. Mixing a record means what?
So you record everything, right? And everything's on separate tracks, ideally, and then,
we're on you and I are on two separate tracks here that Nellie Van Gundy is taking care of.
So, you could just put it out, but it might not sound that great just in its raw form, the raw track. So you want to have the drums EQ'd a certain way, or like would have compression on them, or you maybe like there's one like shaker part or tambourine that doesn't need to be in the whole song. So you mute that and then unmute it when it comes up. Yeah. You just adjust the levels to make it sound like a record.
Yeah.
That's the middle stage. Then there's the dark arts of mastering.
Okay, I think that's because I knew that.
Right,
I mean, I listen to enough music and I watch enough music documentaries. Mastering, I don't think I know. I mean, other than there's a master that they used to make albums from, or it's like the primary recording
tape.
You go from mix to master. This is not what I thought we were going to talk about today, but I, for one, am fascinated by this.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I could, you said primary because that's what we're trying to call it now. Primary, the primary tape, which is like the first generation.
Yeah.
Mastering is it's the dark arts. And I don't have a key to that secret society. No, it's basically what it is getting it to sort of a consistent level between like depending on what you recorded, all say 10 of your tracks on the album might vary in volume and dynamics and stuff like that. So this is getting it to where nothing kind of pokes out too much. It's relative to how you want to space the songs on the album. There's a lot of mysterious stuff that they do with EQ and stuff that like really, it's just the finishing polish, and there's a lot of sort of opinions on what a mastering engineer should do. Some people more heavy-handed than others, but Justin Perkins at Mystery Room Mastering in Milwaukee did this, and he did a fantastic job. I mean, getting it back, I was like, I can't believe my mixes sound this good.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And so, Mem Mods, I'm enjoying it very much, and it's out on. It's an album.
It's an album. We pressed up 500 pieces of vinyl.
Yeah. Did you press it here at Memphis Pressing?
I did. Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Did you get backed up? Because a lot of people, like the COVID, and there was this big explosion in the amount of albums people wanted, and COVID and supply chain and all that stuff. And so there was just this. JD Rieger was on the show, and he was like in this queue and was very frustrated last fall.
They were busy to begin with, and then that all happened. Yeah. It turns out that a couple of different things just sort of in the background kind of like kept us from being able to release it. Like some contractual things and stuff. So we had to kind of sit on it for a while, which kind of was fine because it gave us plenty of time. I wasn't stressing getting the product. As a matter of fact, the product sat in my storage space for a number of months, and 500 records takes up a lot of space. I can tell you that. Like you may think of it as a small run, but it wasn't a small run to my lower back when I was putting it in my storage space. But so by the time we were able to put it out, we had already had the records, and I think that was a good thing too because it gave us some space away from the narrative of the pandemic project.
That's interesting.
I mean, there was just an explosion, 18 months later of all the pandemic projects, and we're still operating on that little bit of press as well, but like I think the noise is less now.
And more about because you don't want to trigger people, exactly. Right? Like I was just in Portland this last weekend, and where my dad lives, my brother lives, and I stayed at the same hotel. I realized, and I'm going to have to stop staying here because I stayed there once or twice. It just opened right before the pandemic, and then I 2 weeks in a day after I got my second shot. I got on a plane to go see my dad, who I hadn't seen in 2 years, and my mom, who was still alive at that point, and my kid. I mean, I just toured the country in my own little way because I was like, I need to go touch these people and see them and so on. But in Portland, then I would just stay at this hotel, and that part of downtown Portland, even though there were shots. Well, one, a lot of people there didn't have shots. We got them here sooner in a lot of ways for reasons good and bad. And then two, it was just apocalyptic. It was, and Portland can be a little apocalyptic.
Downtown Portland was a wild ride.
Days.
Under normal circumstances. Yeah.
I mean, I was sitting there the other day with my brother, and it's totally off track, but I'm like, if I just we're in this nice-ish restaurant, sitting outside, having a glass of wine, eating oysters, being very bougie. There's one drug deal going on, to my left.
Oh, yeah.
And then if I just turn my head, I'm like, oh, I don't even know how many drug deals are going on over there.
Portland keeps it rugged, man. Yeah.
It's something.
We were there this recently, and, we stayed at, the Jupiter, which is where the Doug Fir is, venue and stuff. And it's like, you can see downtown. There's a bridge, and it's just like, I'm not crossing that bridge.
Is it Burnside? There's Burnside.
Yeah.
Burnside is shocking. And that it was true. That's where the drug addicts have ever been sort of at night. They're kind of allowed to stay there. And it is row after row after row of people just homeless
drug users.
It's and again, this goes back a decade. I mean, actually it goes back decades.
There's also probably, I think, the first really major DIY skate park. Burnside,
nice.
called Burnside.
Let's bring it up. That's
an
way better.
thing.
I mean, really, because I don't like, but really, it's just like you mentioned COVID, and then my mind goes to this trip I just took, and this kind of apocalyptic, stay, and
like going back to the record. There's I've still listened to it from time to time, and like certain songs. I mean, it's crazy. It's just like there's a song 3 on the Tree. It's the second song on the record, and there's the record's all instrumental, but I did some kind of vocalizing.
Is that you? Okay, I was going to ask who's doing that.
That's me. Yeah.
Okay.
And literally, like our neighbors down the street, thank goodness they have a pool, and they're just like the gates open, just come in, don't even text us, just show up.
Yeah.
So I've just I'd get Stevie.
You want to put their address out? Right. Does that extend to other people? Sorry.
I would just get Stevie in there, and he'd be busy, and so I was thinking like we were working on that song, and I was like, it needs something right there. There needs to be a color change, but like I don't want to put another guitar on there. There's a lot of guitar. Don't even want to deal with a stringed instrument. And I was just like, what if it was just a voice? So like as soon as he was ready to go, like I got him on a screen and hot footed out back, and like literally just had a mic set up in front of me already, and just sort of cranked it out. And it was really exciting. And because we still are actually, we were just speaking today. We were on an app called Marco Polo, which I didn't know existed, and I think the kids were into it, and now they're not into it.
Now they're going to get confirming.
So we had confirmation from a millennial here. Okay. Okay. So it's basically like video texting. It's like, like it's front facing camera and you like, hey, I'm saying blah, 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 blah. And whoever's on this thread gets the video of you talking. Right. So, so I would send videos of like the mix I was working on so Luther and Paul could hear it. And so I sent a mix. Like, I was just like, yo, I just put these vocals on. Listen to this. And like, it was like, oh, it was kind of a neat moment. But anyway, so whenever I hear that, I think about sitting at that pool, watching my son swim.
Yeah. You've been on tour with the Hold Steady.
I just got back yesterday.
Was that why you were in Portland, or was that a whole other thing?
Yeah, that was a few months ago.
Yeah.
This is our 20th anniversary as a Hold Steady. We have a new record out. We just released a book, an oral history about the band. So we have a lot of stuff going on. And we were just this past weekend, we had our own festival.
Yeah, what was that?
We were just trying to get something going, like our inaugural. It's called the Positive Jams Fest. And so we had like Guided by Voices, Tallest Man on Earth, Laura Stevenson. I Get Wild, which is a Talking Heads cover group. They're amazing. And so anyway, there was that. And the weekend before, we played Newport Folk Festival, which is a first for me, a first for the band, and a first for me as well. That was a whole experience. But yeah, so we're just in and out. Like, we don't really tour like we used to in a traditional sense, where we get on a bus and go from town to town. We do these residencies. It just works out better for us. Works out better for our community as well, just because not a lot of people go to our shows are going out on a Monday night. We're grown ups.
Not a lot doing Marco Polo.
Exactly.
Or ever did Marco Polo. Again, I should remind everyone we're talking to Steve Selvidge if you joined us late. Mem Mods. Let's go back to that. Where can people get Mem Mods? What's the best?
At all your fine independent record stores here in town. You can also it's available. It's I got a deal through distributor Red Eye, so it's available shopping online. All your DSPs should
DSP. What's that?
Digital Service Provider.
Wow.
That's
I love lingo.
Yeah, so that's like Apple Music, Spotify.
Okay. I got it on Apple Music. I'm embarrassed to say, but I also ordered the album. I'm pretty sure I've ordered the album.
Okay, well, I hope you got it.
Maybe I just drive by your storage unit.
Right? Yeah. No, I sent them all to North Carolina.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
But let me know if you get in trouble. It's through Bandcamp, the order to the vinyl.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And so Hold Steady. You got a few more shows coming up, or
so lots of stuff throughout the rest of the year. We're playing them. This feels so like Middle America 70s rock. We're playing the Minnesota State Fair.
That's awesome.
On September 2nd. Yeah. I feel like Pat Travers or something. Like, if you only a certain age demographic will know that, but so we got we got the Brooklyn Bowl in Vegas, which I'm kind of curious about.
What is that one too? I was looking on the site. There's two events around the Brooklyn Bowl. One does not have music, which I thought was fascinating.
It's probably a book event. Yeah,
it was listed on the Hold Steady website as, oh God, it's like a watch party. But I was like, it's a watch party. I mean, you guys watching like
I don't know
college football?
No, I don't know what we would be watching.
Okay, well, we'll
watch
sort
us
that out.
age.
We'll fix that in post. Watch us age. But you're playing at the Brooklyn Bowl in Las Vegas.
Yeah, because the Brooklyn Bowl originally started, the titular location, Brooklyn, and then they have one in Nashville. They have one in Nashville. And they have one somewhere else. I think it closed. But yeah, so we have a relationship with them because at the end of the year, the weekend after Thanksgiving, we do what's called Massive Nights, and that's 4 nights at the Brooklyn Bowl. And that's kind of our signature thing. That's
in the Brooklyn.
That's in Williamsburg. Yes.
Okay. All right. Let me do a little housekeeping real quick. We're here with Steve Selvidge. We'll talk more about music and whatever else comes up. Reminder, this is The Sidebar. I'm Eric Barnes. The Sidebar airs on WYXR 91.7 every Thursday at 11:30. We are focused on the community, arts, culture, everything in between. It's not just a radio show, though. It's one of many weekly podcasts we do at the Daily Memphian, including the Behind the Headlines podcast. Bill Dries and Sam Hardiman's Do a Politics podcast. on the record. We do a Memphis Grizzlies podcast with Drew Hill and Chris Harrington. The Soundbites airs here on WYXR every Thursday at 11, right before the sidebar. But again, everything's available on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also go to WYXR.org or download the WYXR app, and that will get you not only all the talk shows like this and like Soundbites, but all archives of all the music shows, which is a great way to listen to anything you've missed on WYXR. Do consider becoming a member of WYXR. It's a nonprofit, listener-supported radio. You can become a member and get all kinds of benefits. You can give a little money if you can't. Totally understand. But go to WYXR or download the app to support. And also support the Daily Memphian, also a nonprofit. We're coming up on our 5th year anniversary in September, which is insane. And we recently had, a few weeks ago, we had Jeff Calkins on talking a bit about, we ended up talking about Jennifer a lot, but the plan had been to talk about a lot about Daily Memphian and how that launched. We talked some. We also had Otis Sanford on about a month, 6 weeks ago, talking about the state of local news and his career within local news. And coming up soon, we've got Dan Conaway, who's a columnist for us and who did actually a lot of the original marketing for Daily Memphian. So we're going to see what we can possibly remember of all that. And Andy Cates, board chair over Daily Memphian, one of the co-founders, my friend. We're going to talk possibly for an hour, 2 episodes about what we possibly remember about the launch of the Daily Memphian and what we've done, how far we've come, all the things we want to do in the future. I mentioned Behind the Headlines, which appears over every Friday over on WKNO. We are doing right now a series of one-on-one interviews with the major candidates for mayor. We've recently talked to Michelle McKissick, J.W. Gibson, Frank Colvett, although he's actually since dropped out. We have coming up, I guess we just talked to Van Turner. We've got coming up soon Paul Young and Floyd Bonner, and we've got Willie Harrington, former Mayor Harrington. Did I miss any? I'm looking at Natalie Van Gundy, producer. Oh yeah. We've also got Zoe Carr from the Brooks, who's on. We've got some other folks, but we're all mayor all the time right now as we move towards early voting in September and the election October 5th. To that end, this last Tuesday we did a mayoral debate on WKNO. If you missed it and you're interested, you can get that on the WKNO site. You can get it on the Daily Memphian site. You can go to YouTube and search for Daily Memphian and you'll get a recording of the mayor debate. And I hosted that with Kanji Anthony. And truth be told, we're recording this before it happened, but I just know that Kanji was a lot better than I was. I'm just going to go ahead and say, yeah, I mean, I know Kanji's a pro. So I'm very excited about that. And very excited. She's coming out of semi-retirement or TV retirement to do that with us. So if you missed it again, you can get that on WKNO or on Daily Memphian. Coming up soon, our small business seminar is at Memphis Botanic Garden on August 24th at 3:30. Go to Eventbrite, search for Daily Memphian, and you can register to be there and see 3 local small business people talking about their experiences. So we are, after all that housekeeping, we are still here with Steve Selvidge, talking about Mem Mods, the album, talking about touring with the Hold Steady. What else do you got going on? You always have a lot going on.
Yeah, with the kiddos and all that.
Well, that too. Yeah.
So yeah, I've also been, while I'm in town, I kind of put my band on the bricks for a minute, but we're starting to play some more shows, and that's been fun. And I've been also playing a lot. Kind of my main gig outside of the Hold Steady is playing with Marcella and her Lovers. Yeah. And that's been so great, man. She's just a force, and she's so talented and amazing and awesome. And also, a child of a musician performer. Yeah. So that's fun to do.
Where do people track all this? Are they supposed to go to, is there like steveselvidge.com and it's all there? Or you're on Instagram.
Instagram or Facebook.
You're very fun on Instagram.
Yeah.
People should. And your photos, because you've been taking photos.
Yeah.
too.
So that's really been, apart from the band, that's been my main focus. Is I've been kind of got back into film photography. Like, I've tried to mess around. My wife got like when the mirrorless digital camera started coming out, we got some of that, and I just never connected. But a couple years ago, a friend of mine who makes guitar pedals, this company called JHS Pedals, he started putting up stuff that he had taken on Instagram. And I was like, that looks like fun. And it consumed me completely. And so many rolls of film and many cameras later, it's like I shoot every day. And just, I'm always in the process of developing, and I don't develop myself, but getting stuff developed and editing.
Where do you get your stuff developed? Because it's color mostly.
Yeah. Mostly 99% color. I sent it to a place called the Darkroom Lab. I like their service. They have an app that's handy. And also the thing about developing is because these days developing means scanning, and a human being is making those scans, and they make actual decisions as to how those scans look.
Wait. Okay.
So they develop your film, and then if you buy scans from them,
now you got a negative.
They scan the negative.
Oh.
And that's how you put your picture on Instagram or whatever else, or make a print from it.
Okay.
So that's where it lives. That's your sort of digital archive. I like the way they do their scans. I like the way they look.
Yeah.
I do minimal editing to mine once I get them. I do a lot of printing here in town at MPI. Memphis Pro Imaging over on Summer. My friend Buck Billings works over there, and he does his printing is I'm a huge fan. He does great stuff. But yeah, so I've just been kind of back and forth with it, but I think I might try to probably self-release, but just definitely put a book together and hopefully maybe have a show.
And it's on Instagram, it's SSS_film_pics.
PIX. Yeah.
But they can go find you and get over that pretty easily.
Yeah. So from all my comings and goings, it's as much as the algorithm will allow me to be seen. It's my personal Instagram and Facebook. I have a website, but I haven't done anything to it in over a decade. It's just people don't look at that anymore, Yeah. So just find me on social media.
Yeah. I don't know why this reminds me, but because we just had Brooks Lamb, a writer on, I should have done that in my housekeeping because his book is sitting in front of me, who wrote this book called Love for the Land, Lessons from Farmers Who Persist in Place. That's totally out of context, but I meant to mention that. He also wrote a book, though. This is part of the reason I'm bringing this up, is because he wrote a book about Overton Park called, I don't know where I put it. The Overton Park book was a People's History that came out in 2019. And he's a really interesting guy, really smart guy, kind of just like a little overwhelming because he's done a lot at a very young age. But before we started, I said it was Overton Square.
Right.
And you made a joke that it was a book about Overton Square. And you're like, wow, it's a book about Quaaludes.
Yeah.
But so my story I was going to tell you, but I want to wait till we're recording, is a friend used to be a manager at Bombay Bicycle.
Yeah.
And he was describing it one time, and I think he worked there in the 70s. And he said, you can't imagine was his take, you just walk outside to smoke a cigarette and there's people having sex, people doing drugs, just it was out of control in a way that now I like to go to Overton Square. It's great. It's really good, but it's family friendly to say at least. The degree to which it was not family friendly. I mean, everybody has heard the story of, Billy Joel played there before he was anybody, and Elton John played there and all that. But that was the first time somebody described to me how incredibly borderline dangerous it was.
I've heard the same. Yeah. Because that was because a lot of people forget, and I mean, it's before my time, but you couldn't go to a bar and be like, give me a Jack on the Rocks.
Right.
You couldn't get liquor by the drink.
In Memphis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess you brought a bottle and paid for setups. I don't know how it worked. I don't know what the deal was.
Yeah.
But so liquor by the drink became available, right? Was as Overton Square had been developed, and then there was Quaaludes, and
then there was Quaaludes,
and then
thanks
and
for
it was
joining
just
us.
sliding away, and I mean, it was that was right at the tail end, that was what 75, 76, and so I mean, AIDS was just about 5 or 6 years away, and shut everything down, but I mean, my dad played at the Procope, which is now the barbecue shop.
Oh, okay.
And he had a regular gig there. I think it was Wednesday nights, and his set kind of turned into his album Cold in the Morning. And then the Blue Monkey was Trader Dick's.
Oh wow!
So you go in there and find Alex Chilton holding court or whatever else, and then there was the whole Fridays scene.
Yeah, the first Fridays in America.
That's right. Yeah,
which is where Babalu is now. Right.
That's right. That's right.
When first time I visited Memphis, I went to that Fridays.
Wow. Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I'm never going to, whatever am I?
Yeah.
And now love it. But that was 30 years ago, I think, the first time I visited here. So it was still there. Is there anywhere that you play in any of your many gigs that is sort of slightly out of control that way? Or, I mean, things are just not that sort of 70s thing.
Right.
Or does it still exist in places where you play and you're kind of wow, I would probably not bring my kids here?
I don't know about that. Well, I mean, probably bring my kids anywhere, but I mean, I don't want to throw any seed under the bus, but I mean, Baltimore's wild.
Okay.
Baltimore's got a crazy energy. It's for real. It's palpable, and I love it. But it's I've never been to a city quite like Baltimore. We were just the Hold Steady played a festival in Louisville recently, and I've probably been there sometime as a kid, but like it had energy to it.
Yeah.
Both kind of sketchy, but when you're from Memphis, like going somewhere and there's sketch is like, aw, I mean,
yeah. Well, like when I was in Portland, I mean, one thing I kept telling myself, or not even telling myself, was just the reality is like, it was very uncomfortable I was there 3 days. It really was uncomfortable to be around that much drug use. Like this is not even so much a judgment and
just
the
take
politics.
Care of yourselves.
Yeah. It's just like, man, it's super sad. People are very strung out.
Yeah.
It's basically, opioids and mushroom, everything's decriminalized in Portland. And I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but boy, it's really hard to be around. It really like builds up. But I kept telling myself, well, yeah, nobody's got a gun.
Yeah, right.
Versus like when you're in Memphis, you're like,
it's like, there's people doing drugs. Like, yeah, I'm at a stoplight. It's like, who knows what's going to happen.
It's funny, not funny.
Yeah, but Louisville's cool, man. Like the downtown is still. It reminded me of like downtown Memphis when like Sammy's and Greg's was still there. That was like, it was really cool, and like. Kentucky has all these pockets of like art scenes.
Yeah.
I really like that. And like, so they have this like free concert series on like a Thursday. And so the radio station there's been kind to us. So we went and played it.
Oh, cool.
And, but it was neat because like doing these, and I'm here in Memphis talking about my other life. Sometimes I feel like, with the Hold Steady, but doing these shows, like the residencies, we have a lot of people that travel. And we've developed a community where we're like friends with some of the people. Like we might know the whole front row. But so doing these shows like in Louisville and Newport Folk, these aren't the usual suspects. So it was good to roll in and be like, okay, we got to win each person over.
Yeah.
We got, not that we don't try when it's.
No, but I'm sure.
But it was like, I was like, okay, like when we were playing Newport, there's this one song called First Night, and like the end, it's sort of like there's a piano break, and then there's a build up. And, our singer kind of Craig Finn got everybody standing up, and like Newport skews a little old, but I was just watching the crowd and I was just looking at people. I was like, okay, I know for a fact that person has no idea who we were, but they're getting up out of their seat.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it was good to have worked, like really work for it. You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, every town has its area, but
yeah. We got like a minute left or less, depending on how much Natalie takes out, which is still not allowed. But she does it anyway. I can't remember. I always ask people what their first concert was. What was yours again?
Kiss.
God, that's so good.
With Mid-South Coliseum.
Oh,
Peter Criss was still in the band. It was a Dynasty tour. He was on the way out, but
that's so good. He was on the. I love that. Yeah. I had so many things I was going to ask you about playing, about music, but none of them are going to be short enough to talk about. Did you any other projects that we skipped over? Because you have so much going on that
right
around everything.
The main thing is Mem Mods. Buy it, download it, share it.
Are you guys going to play?
We have
3 of you. It's just too much going on.
Well, Paul's in up northern Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Luther's in Nashville and on the road. I'm on the road.
Yeah.
It might happen, but I'm not. I wouldn't rule it out, but there's no plans. It's just hard to get. I mean, we made the record in a vacuum, so
yeah.
If we did anything, we would just get together and play in the spirit of the recording. But I wouldn't have no interest in like really recreating it.
Gotcha.
It was just a moment that exists on its own.
Yeah.
But other than that, man, just doing the Hold Steady thing, and just look for me if you see my name in town, or if you see Marcella's name in town, come see us.
Yeah.
And also, you're going to be able to get me on sound bites, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Would you come on sound?
I would totally come on because
I'm kind of a foodie, right?
I'm a foodie. Yeah,
that would actually be awesome.
I don't think that term in the pejorative, and I love to cook, and I love to
that would be great.
If you get me in the right musician going, people start rolling their eyes like, oh God, he's going to start talking about emulsification.
All right. No, that's good. We're making a note. Steve Selvidge, thanks so much. Thanks for being here. That is all the time we have this week. And reminder, the Sidebar airs on WYXR 91.7 every Thursday, 11:30. If you missed any of the show today, you can get the full podcast of the interview with Steve at the Daily Memphian site, WYXR, or wherever you get your podcasts. Do subscribe to this podcast, the other Daily Memphian podcast. Subscribe to the Daily Memphian and support WYXR. Thanks very much. We'll see you next week.